Okay, so you just said that you're almost paid off on the house. So I said, what would you need to clear? And you said how much?
$1,200.
So you need $1,200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are you asking for on this house again right now?
Well, I'm asking $1,400 right now, just because I need a.
Well,
little
it's a
bit
for
of-
sale by owner, so I would know what your asking price is.
Asking price is $275.
Oh, well, okay. First of all, off role play, $1,200 a month rent for a $275,000 house. That's awesome. I would be all over that. So what I'd say is, well, I think I'm sorry, your name?
Kate.
Kate. I'd say, well, Kate. So you need about $1,200 a month for rent on the, and let's just say that's what homes are renting for in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got a few things I might be able to do for you. I don't know if it'll work out, okay, but let me tell you a little bit about what we do. And you can say yes or no, it's a fit. It doesn't matter to me, okay? There's a few things I can do for you. Number one, I have what we call the perfect tenant program, where I can be your tenant buyer. I can lease your property. I'll be responsible for the monthly payments every month, whether it's vacant or not, and I'll be responsible for all the maintenance and repairs. And then what I'll do is I'll sublease it out to somebody else, and I'll basically manage the house, and I'll have a contract to buy it from you at a certain date. That I call my perfect tenant program, but the numbers need to work, okay? I don't know if that would be of any interest to you or not, but the other thing I could offer is I could find a tenant buyer for you. So I could get the property under an option contract. You just tell me what you need to walk away with. And then if I find a good tenant buyer that I feel has a good shot at getting a mortgage, I would then just assign my contract to them and I'd be out of the picture. You wouldn't be interested in either one of those, would you?
Well, my question is, what's the difference between the two cost-wise for me?
Well, generally speaking, I would probably need to make $300 to $400 a month, and the difference between what I'm renting it from you and what I'm renting it out for. And I'd have to have some spread at the back end. I'd have to, sorry, I don't normally say that. I'd have to have some profit at the back end of profit. And so, so then, what's so funny is this guy up here, he's like, face is beat red.
I do that every once in a while.
It's my dad.
Okay.
He taught me all I know.
You're just so funny. I mean, like,
Well, the numbers would have to work, and I'd have to have some profit on my part to do that. So it just depends. I'd have to do some research. I could, do some research tonight and get back to you maybe. But there's different options, and in fact, if you wanted to just do it yourself, you could hire me as a consultant, and I can show you how to do a lease purchase yourself.
So the first option, if you were to take $300 or $400, how much is that going to come off of my table, and what are the benefits to you doing that instead of me just handling it all myself?
Well, the benefits would be I would manage the property, and I would make the payments whether it was vacant or not, and I would be responsible for all the maintenance and repairs on the house. Okay, but I would need to, let's just use round numbers here. I would probably need to rent it from you for like $900 a month, and then I would need to sublease it out for maybe $1,300 a month. Okay, and then at the end, you would have a price. I would have a price negotiated with you that I would buy it for, and I would probably sell it for a higher amount to my tenant buyer. And I don't know what those numbers are yet, but I could certainly sharpen my pencil and maybe get back to you on some of those things. So do you want me to make an offer along those lines, or would you just prefer to make more money and do it yourself?
Well, I have two questions. One is, how am I going to be sure that you're making the payments on my house, and why would I be assured that I'm not going to get a foreclosure notice on my credit, because that's where I'm really concerned. And the other is, you're telling me that you can pick a price today on the house, but it'll still be good in 2 years. What if it goes up in value?
Well, the first objection is you continue making the mortgage payment on your house. I'm not taking over your mortgage payment. So I'm going to send you rent every month. So I'm more concerned that you're going to make the mortgage payment, to be honest. So we would have what's called an authorization to release information. So you would give us permission to make sure that your loan is current, that you're paying the mortgage. And I'm sorry, what was your second question?
The price, setting the price. So you said
Yeah.
set price today. would still be the same price that you would pay me in 2 years.
Yeah.
What if the market goes up and I want to get the money that I put into this house out?
Well, we just discussed that up front. We would give you a price, and you could say yes or no. So we would make an offer on the house that you would have to sell it to us in 2 years for. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, it's totally fine to say no. But we have to have something in writing in the contract for a price that you're going to sell the house to us.
So if the price is $275 today, but it's $300 in 2 years, who gets the profit?
The buyer does.
The
Me.
buyer does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if that's an issue, then it's fine. It might be better if we're not in the middle and you just deal directly with the tenant buyer and you can get a higher price for it. It doesn't matter to us.
Okay.
Well, how about this? How about I email you some stuff, take a look at it, I'll make some offers and send it to you, and we'll go from there.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to be able to look that over and see if everything is kosher with my attorney and everything.
Oh, great. Attorney. This is great. So sometimes when people bring up attorneys, I'll say something like, that's awesome. I'll tell you what. I've worked with a lot of attorneys. In fact, I've spent thousands of dollars on attorneys for preparing my contracts. I'll send it to you. Just promise me something that you'll give your attorney my phone number so I can talk to him directly or her directly.
That's a good point.
So I can explain the stuff. So, okay, how about I send you the stuff, you'll review it. When can we talk again?
I might have some time sometime next week.
Next week? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. What time? Afternoon, morning?
Generally evenings work.
Okay, so 6 o'clock Wednesday?
Sure.
Can I call you back on this number?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I got a deadline. I got an appointment to make another call and talk to you Wednesday. Now, if it was like a week, like over a week away, I'd probably say, how about this? Let's just talk again in a week. I'm not going to send you something and make you wait and have to wait a week for you to review it. It's like when you're making an offer to a seller on a house. When you give them a contract, you're going to give them a deadline. And if every full-time successful investor I know that's flipping a lot of deals, that deadline is usually only 12 to 24 hours max, right? So it's the same with lease purchasing. Sometimes the seller will just want to get the paperwork to review it so they can copy your paperwork and do it on their own or whatever. So I'm always looking to make sure that this is somebody that wants to do business today. Now, you wanted an attorney to review it. Mm-hmm. I'd never say, oh, no, forget it. I mean, I always will say, that's a great idea, okay? But let me just tell me that you'll give the attorney my phone number because I want him to call me if he has questions. I don't want him to ask you the questions and cast a bunch of doubt in your mind of this is a bad,
killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk to that attorney and answer the objections for him. And believe it or not, I've had lots of deals where the attorney actually encouraged the seller to do a lease purchase and say, yeah, this is great. Go for it. But a lot of times you'll get the attorney objections and it's just fluff. They don't really mean it, So if you were to say, well, let me think about it, I would say something like, well, honestly, when I hear that, usually they mean they just don't want to do business with me. And that's fine, I totally understand. But what are you really concerned about? What are some of your problems? Why do you want to think about this some more? You need to have a spouse that you want to talk to. And so I would try to dig deeper into answering the questions right now. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Thank you.
Do you have people ask about like your credentials and stuff? Because you're talking to them over the phone. It could be just some.
Yeah, that's my question was,
Great.
what are you going to send them? You keep saying, I'm going to send you something
Oh, what am I sending them? Good.
in the email.
Yeah, in my course, I have a sample email that I send
Okay.
to sellers. And in that email, it just explains the program in like 5 bullet points. It maybe explains the numbers a little bit. And then included in that, I attach my option to lease option agreement. That's why I love the option to lease option. I can just attach it to an email.
Right.
They fill it out and send it back. And so it's not like, the other way you would do it is you would find out that what she wanted to walk away with. And then I'd say, okay, well listen, I'm going to send you an offer and you can review it and let's talk tomorrow morning at 9 and talk about it. So then in my offer, I would send the full contract. What I would do is I would send a cover letter that explains the numbers, and I have that also. And then attached to that cover letter is the actual contract. And so then you would review that.
That's the option to lease option.
No,
agreement.
that's the standard option,
Okay.
lease option agreement.
Okay.
The option agreement, I don't have to send any cover letter explaining the numbers. It's just fill this out, and then I'll get back to you. So it's just whatever you feel more comfortable doing. So in my email that I'm sending, it's just a simple outline of my program, how lease purchasing works, my website, my phone number, my contact information, and I'll attach something, or I'll also give you a link that you can go to my website and sign it online. And by the way, I use DocuSign to sign my contracts. DocuSign, it's free, up to one signer, I think. And it's a great resource. There's other services that you can use as well. The other thing about DocuSign is they have this thing called Power Forms. You have to actually talk to somebody on the phone to sign up for it, and you have to. It's kind of expensive. I pay $150 a quarter for it, so it's $75 a month or $60 a month or something. And what it is you upload a document, and they give you a link. Okay, they give you a link, and then you just email sellers that link, or you put that link on your website. And then they click that link, and it takes them to your contract where they can fill it out and sign it online. The free way to do it is you have to manually upload your PDF, drag and drop where they're supposed to sign and fill out the details, and then email it from there. Yes?
What about if they ask to review all the documents, like what lease are you using, what option agreement are you using, the option to lease option? What if they ask to review all of that before?
Yeah, that's a good question. If they ask, well, can I review all your documents? I'll say, no problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. But I need to get some kind of commitment from you first that you want to do a lease purchase. So I'm going to send you a property information worksheet and just a standard option agreement. Okay, and you can cancel at any time. But I need you to sign that first before I send all of my paperwork to you. Do you have a problem with that? Is that okay? So I want to get some kind of commitment from you before I send you all my paperwork. Because some sellers have done that thinking, well, I'll just take what he's doing and copy it and do it myself. I don't need his help. So I want to make sure that some sellers will say, look, just bring me a buyer and then I'll sign all your paperwork. Well, it sounds to me like, I mean, you got a good handle on this. You probably are already getting a bunch of calls. I probably can't help you. So, and I'll let them go. Cool. Yeah.
When you heard that she had a lot of equity, you thought to do a sandwich option. Why was that?
Because there's a lot of equity. So what I would do is I would say, let's say she wanted $1,200 a month in rent, but I know I could rent it for $1,600, especially if it's worth $275. I know I could rent it for at least $1,600. So I would say, okay, I can get you $1,200 a month, and what would you need to sell it for? And then I would ask her what she needed, and then I'd have to, probably after I got off the phone, look to see if I could sell it. Generally speaking, I want at least $30,000, $40,000 back-end profit, and I want $300 to $400 a month positive net cash flow every month. So if I can get those kinds of numbers, then I'll do a sandwich lease option. I'll do what Michael does. And I just get it under contract, find a tenant buyer, stay in the middle for 2, 3, 4 years, and then hopefully buy it and sell it like a sandwich lease option. But then I would also give the option, look, if she wanted too much in rent, I'd just say, well, you can keep all of the rent and you can get a higher price and do it yourself. I'll find the tenant buyer and I explain how I just assign my contract and stuff. Does that answer your question? So sometimes I'll give sellers 3 options. The perfect tenant program, if there's enough room, I'll stay in the middle, I'll be your tenant buyer. As long as I get $300 to $400 a month in cash flow, that's the difference between what I'm paying her and what I'm renting it out for, and $30,000 to $40,000 back-end profit. So I'm going to buy it from her for $250, but I'm going to sell it for $290. So that's a good sandwich lease option deal. I'll stay in the middle. The second option is I'm just going to get it under for whatever price you want, for whatever rent you want. I'm going to get it under a lease option. I'm just going to assign my contract to a tenant buyer, and I'm going to keep the option deposit. That's number 2. Number 3, the third option is I'll just teach you how to do it, and you can do it yourself, and you can keep all the option deposit. My fee is 1 month's rent. So whenever you're explaining this, try to keep it as simple and as succinct as possible. And try not to explain too many details because it just confuses them. That's why I call it my perfect tenant program. I'll stay in the middle. I'll be your tenant buyer. Or second, I'll just assign my contract to another tenant buyer. Or number 3, I'll teach you how to find your own tenant buyer. Yes?
What do you stipulate as the maintenance amount that the tenant needs to be responsible for? Like, is it 300, 500?
The question is, well, how do you determine how much maintenance and repairs the tenant's responsible for? I do usually $500 a month. In some states, it's a little more tricky because you can't just pass on all the maintenance and repairs to a tenant buyer. So what I do is I limit it to maybe $500. If the seller objects, maybe I'll make it $1,000. But that's $500 in a 30-day period. So that if it's something that is major that needs to be fixed, the tenant's responsible for the first 500. But oftentimes, if it's that much, it's usually an insurance claim. You know, the roof. So if the roof was damaged or there's flooding or something like that, then the seller's insurance has to cover that.
And the furnace wouldn't unexpectedly go out because we've already had an inspection, right?
Yeah, that's why inspections are so important. I make the tenant buyer get an inspection at the beginning so that they're less likely to come back and say, hey, this furnace is bad, I'm not going to pay for it. You know, we can say, look, you had it inspected. You need to be responsible for that. And I'm telling tenant buyers this as I'm talking to them. We're looking for somebody who wants to buy this house and take care of it. So the tenant buyers know going into it that they're responsible for the house more than a regular tenant would be. Does that make sense?
So if the furnace goes out, obviously it's more than the 500.
It may not be.
Well, yeah, okay, assuming it's more than, so it's $1,000.
Let's say it's $1,000, yeah.
And so then who's paying that?
The tenant pays the first 500 and the seller pays the other 500.
Because you say it to them like they're going to be all responsible for everything, but
Sometimes what I'll say, that's a good point. Sometimes I'll say they're responsible for the day-to-day maintenance and repairs. I usually say that. They're responsible for the day-to-day maintenance and repairs. So, yes.
Do you generally get the owners to get landlord's insurance during the period of the lease?
Yeah, if it's a homeowner, they have to change their homeowner's insurance to a landlord policy. So that's on my checklist, right? I make sure the seller knows that they have to switch their policy to a landlord policy. Good question. And there's actually a company that insures rent. Not lost rent if there's a damage to the property. They'll insure the rent if it goes vacant or you evict a tenant. And have you heard of this company, Mike? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but if you go, there's a magazine called the National Real Estate Investor magazine. National Real Estate Investor magazine. If you go look them up online, I think you can get issues online. There's a company that always advertises in that magazine. They actually insure the rent. You have to pay for it, and it usually works out to be about 1 month's worth of rent that you pay over that year. They will insure up to 3 months of lost rent if you evict or the tenant leaves. It's a pretty good program if it's legitimate. I don't know if it is or not. All right, I got a few more things to talk about as far as outsourcing. Who would like to know how I find my VAs? Good. All right. Let's talk about that. And then let me ask you this, actually. Would you rather me call another seller or would you rather me talk about virtual assistants? If you want me to talk about virtual assistants, raise your hand. If you want me to call some more sellers, raise your hand. Okay. Did any of you watch the Democratic Convention? 2/3 aye, 2/3. I felt so bad for that guy. He was the mayor of Los Angeles.
On your DocuSign, do they actually go to your website and sign it up right there?
It depends.
Okay.
Sometimes in the email that I send to them, I'll just paste the link in there.
Okay.
I'll say, hey, click this link to sign it right now. Sometimes I'll send them to my website, go to this website to fill it out there. Or sometimes I'll just attach a PDF.
Okay.
Now, if the seller says, well, I'm ready to go, let's do it, I'm going to send that seller an email from DocuSign. And I may even walk them through it over the phone.
Right.
I'll say, okay, let me get on to DocuSign right here, and I'll send it to them and say, okay, can you get to your email? Do you see it there? Click these buttons, fill it out. Do you have any questions? Okay, this is where you sign it. So I may walk them through it over there on the phone.
Okay.
But DocuSign is great. It's free. I think you just take a look at it. They change their plans sometimes, but it's free.
You don't pay anything for DocuSign?
I do because I'm using the thing called Power Forms. Power Forms gives you a special link for your document. So instead of uploading the PDF of the contract to DocuSign, let me just show you how it works. Would you like to see how it works?
Sure.
It won't take me but a second.
Do you fill it out for the buyer before, or the seller before you send it to them?
Well, depending on which strategy I'm using. The question was, do I fill it out before I send it to them? If I'm doing my option to lease option agreement, there's nothing to fill out. The seller just fills everything out. If I'm doing the second way, I should give it a name. If you're doing it the way of signing the whole lease option agreement, I have to fill out a bunch of stuff and then send it to them. So this is DocuSign. I'm going to go start a new envelope. Let me save one of my contracts here somewhere. I'm going to save this somewhere on my hard drive. Okay. I'll go here and I'm going to browse from my computer. It doesn't matter if it's a Word document or a PDF. It's uploading it.
Oh, wow.
Document upload error. So what I should do is just make this a PDF first. So I'm going to print this as a PDF. Okay. Browse from my computer, select the PDF. It's uploading it. It's 3 pages. The first 2 pages is just tell me about the property. And the third page is the option to lease option agreement. So I'm going to put an email in here. And their name. Okay. And I click add signer. And if you could have multiple people sign this, you could select 2 people and they can have to sign it in turn. So here's the email message. Right now it just says, please sign this. Hey, sign this. Thanks. Joe. All right, now I'm going to, you can say, allow the recipient to edit the document or allow the recipient to change the signing responsibility. I'm going to check that. You can set up reminders where it reminds them every day, every couple days until they sign it. Then you go to next. Now it's going to upload the PDF, and now it's just going to be drag and drop where you want them to sign. Now these fields here, there's nothing there, so you have to take this data field thing and just drag it over there. Data field. Now this is kind of a lengthy process. And then you can go in here and you can click this preferences and you can make it required, yes or no, okay? And so there's a lot of blanks in here, it's a lot of dragging. So that's why I like Power Forms. But I'll tell you this, there's a way in DocuSign, you just do this once, you can create this, make it into a template, okay? And then all you need to do then is, when you're doing this, instead of where I selected upload from my computer, there was an option of choose from templates. Okay, so once you do this, now you create a template, and then you can just choose that agreement from the template. So you drag and drop where you want the seller to fill out information, and when it comes to the signature part, like right here, see the signature? All you do is you grab and drag this signature there, and you grab the date sign. So when they get this, it's like one of those sticky things that you put on contracts to sign. They just click that thing and it asks them some questions and they sign it. Okay? And then you do the same thing down here. You drag wherever you want them to sign the date field. And you can actually make it bigger or smaller. I don't know if you can see that. Okay? And you can make it required or not. So once it's done, you click send right there at the bottom, or you can preview it. And this is, it's one of the, once you start typing things in here, you see it, well, it's not going to do it in preview. If it's long, it'll actually stretch the box out so you can see it all. Not a big deal. Okay? There's other services that do this, but I've just found DocuSign the best. And if you want to invest in, if you're doing a lot of these deals, you want to get their thing called Power Forms, but you need to call them up to order it. Okay? I use DocuSign all the time. All the time.
Hey Joe,
Yes.
how do you gather your 492 ads prospects within 30 minutes? Is that part of the course,
No.
or do you cut and paste, or how do you?
I have a script.
Script?
It's a scraper tool that I paid a guy $40 on Odesk to build for me.
How much are you going to sign that?
It's not for sale. But I can tell you can get your own built if you go to Odesk. And Odesk is one of the tools I'm going to give you here in just a second. What I was doing at the time when I came up with this idea was my VA was going through every day and just finding 30 new homes. And I thought there's maybe got to be a better way to do this. So I saw other guys selling these scripts for $1,000, these programs that go through Craigslist and scrape them, or $100 a month or something. So I just went to odesk.com, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I went to Odesk and I posted a job saying, I want somebody to go through Craigslist every day. I want somebody to build me a program that goes through Craigslist and scrapes all of these phone numbers and emails. Well, Odesk flagged my job posting and removed it because I was using certain bad words like scrape, Craigslist, So what I had to change, I changed it and I said, I'm looking for somebody to go into popular websites and gather data. Write a program to gather data or something like that. And I had 100 applications for this. And I just went through and I found a guy for $40. He built it for me. And it works really well. But here's the thing, I can't give it away or I can't sell it because Craigslist doesn't like people scraping all this data off of Craigslist, right? So if too many people are using this, it's called a script, it's a PHP script. If too many people are using it, then Craigslist will flag that and not let anybody use it anymore. So it's just my VAs use it now. But you can get your own built. Just put an ad in Odesk, say I'm looking for somebody to build me a program that gathers data from various websites.
You give them the parameters.
Yeah. And you tell them, once they apply, then you respond to them saying, okay, I need something in Craigslist that scrapes phone numbers and emails. I also want the date of the ad, the links to the ad, and different stuff like that. So it's really good. And by the way, no, never mind. I think maybe, I was talking about REI Blackbook. I think they do that for you.
They would import into the book. Yeah.
I think REI Blackbook has a feature that will scrape Craigslist for you.
REI Blackbook?
Yeah, I was talking about that before.
Aren't there scrapers out there though, like that are free?
No.
Or are they just worthless?
I've never found a free one. I found guys that will sell them for $100 a month or $500.
There's one guy that gives away one that'll only get you like 50 leads, and then you gotta buy.
Then it expires, yeah.
Roncheck used to recommend one.
But you gotta, it doesn't really work because you can't find just 50, and if there's over 50 returned, you have to limit your search, and you get to the point where you can't limit it anymore and get what you want, so it's kind of worthless.
But here's the thing. If you're just getting started, just have your VA go through every day and find 30 of them. And track those phone numbers in a Google Doc spreadsheet. And I give you the spreadsheet that will check for duplicates. Okay. So just have them go through every day, manually do it. And then after you get that going, go ahead and look into either buying a scraper script or getting one built. So what did I do from Starbucks? I used my secret, super secret scraper, and I went in and I scraped 500 phone numbers. Actually, I had about 800, and after removing all the duplicates, there was about 400. And then I also I used voice blasting software to voice blast all those leads. And again, remember I talked about that's a gray area. Some people would say you can't do that. Some people say you can do that. So I don't know. I used to teach that a lot in my course, and I don't really emphasize it anymore. I emphasize now something like slide dial. Because slide dial you can manually call, okay, and then leave a message. There are tools out there that will do that for you. Well, they'll have somebody that will actually manually dial the phone number, and as soon as they get a voicemail, they click a button and it plays your recorded voice. But there's people that will do it manually. They have to manually type in the numbers. So that's a little more advanced. Don't worry about that right now. Just focus on, I got to get 16, 17, 20 ads a day in Craigslist. I'm going to send them a text message. I'm going to send them a phone number. I'm going to send them a slide dial. Okay, and that'll get your phone to ring. Now, so all of these systems I've been talking about, it may be hard to read. Write them down. I would recommend learning how to do it yourself first, and then write them down just like I did in that Google Doc. In that Google Doc, it shows you all of the things I want my VA to do. Now, you'll need to take that and personalize it, make it your own. Okay, but and then once you've got all of that written down, send the marketing between these hours. Go after these cities. Avoid these houses. Put the leads in this spreadsheet. You just create a video of yourself doing that. So you write it all down, okay, and then you Jing them. Now, I don't even know if Jing is available anymore, but there's other tools that you can use. And I gave them to you before, but one of them is Screener.com, Screener, Screener.com, or ScreenR.com. And then there's Screencast-O-Matic. Just Google Screencast-O-Matic. Screencast-O-Matic. And both of those, what they'll do is they'll let you, one will do it for 15 minutes, the other one will do it for 5 minutes. But it just records your screen, and it records your voice if you have a microphone set up or whatever. And you can just walk through doing this stuff, and your virtual assistant can watch you do it while you're talking. So I'll record a video of me going through that Google Doc. I'll show me, this is what I'm doing. Here I'm in Craigslist. I'm looking at these houses. This is a good one, this is a bad one. And I actually copy and paste the phone number into my spreadsheet. I show them logging into Google and sending the emails, sending the text. I show them everything they do, and I show them how to track the way I want them to track. So there's a Jing. Go ahead and look for Jing if you can, because if you can download it, I like it the best because it's very user-friendly. Now, my best source for virtual assistants. Odesk is a great place to get the project-based virtual assistant. And let's say you don't want a full-time VA yet. You can get a good full-time VA for $500 a month. Okay? But if you want to spend maybe $200 a month on a VA, just part-time, there's a website called odesk.com. And I have if you go to my podcast, if you go to iTunes and do a search for real estate investing, I'm usually number 2. And it's called Real Estate Investing Mastery. If you just go to the podcast and look me up, I have some free bonuses on there if you go to my website. And I actually have a video in those free bonuses on how to use Odesk. And I actually walk through creating a job in Odesk and how to filter out all of the applicants. And the cool thing about Odesk is it lets you track your VA's work. So Odesk will take a screenshot of their computer every couple minutes. And it'll also give you a little meter that tells you how active their mouse and keyboard is. So you can actually track what they're doing when they're clocking in, okay? And so at Odesk, they clock in and they clock out. And when they're clocked in, Odesk will take pictures of their screen. And so you can go in and see what they're doing. And you don't pay them until, you pay them weekly, but you can go in and then it says, okay, the period has ended. You have 2 or 3 days to review the work, and if we don't hear from you, we'll go ahead and assume that you've approved it, and you can pay them. If you can see that they're not doing your work that you want them to do, you can stop payment, and it actually won't even pay them. And Odesk has a team that manages those disputes. I've done that before, where I've seen this seller or this VA was playing around on doing other things, and I could see his screen. He was playing games, and so I stopped the payment. And Odesk, within a couple days, it got back to me and said, "You're right. You don't have to pay them for any of that work." So Odesk will. The cool thing is that you can also now look at all of the other reviews that these VAs have had. So you can see other employers that have hired them. They get reviews. You can see how many hours they've worked, what kind of jobs they've done, and they can also see your reviews and how the VAs rank you. So Odesk is a great place to go, and if you go to my podcast website, you can get the free video I've created on how I use and train and hire my VAs. Okay, so it's a great resource. Virtual Staff Finder is a great place to go if you're looking for a full-time VA. They charge a fee of about $350 one time, $350, and they'll find. You tell them what you want, the skills you want, what you want them to do. And they'll go out and find 3 really good, highly qualified VAs in the Philippines to work for you, and then they'll set up a time for you to interview them on Skype. You may say that they have to have really good English. Okay, that's fine. They'll find somebody that has very good English. You may not care about English. You just want them to do data entry stuff or research. So you'll set up an interview with them, and then you hire them, and you pay them directly through PayPal or whatnot. And another service I've never used, but it's 123employee.com. They have a bunch of VAs sitting in this huge building in the Philippines that are already trained on a lot of things. And so you can hire them to do whatever you want. Internet marketing, your own marketing, answering the phones, returning seller calls. And all these people, you're going to pay about double what you would pay on Odesk, but they're already trained. And they're working in a facility that has a bunch of other VAs, and you'll pay more, but you'll get maybe a better product, and you may not have to worry about training them as much. So I have found great VAs on Odesk, and I found horrible VAs on Odesk. So you just got to make sure your systems are written down, and then you have a video walking through. So if you have to fire your VA, that's not a big deal. You just get another one, and you send them the document and get them going. Yes?
Is there a minimum commitment on Odesk, like $200 a month or so many hours? So you can hire somebody for 4 hours and that's it?
Yeah, so you can pay like on a project basis, lump sum, $100. Well, what they do is they ask for a budget. And so you need to say if your budget is $2 an hour, or if it's an hourly budget or a lump sum budget. And then the people bid. So they'll come in and apply for your job and bid their time. $5 an hour, $1 an hour. I've hired guys at 30 cents an hour. Okay? And I didn't care where they lived or what they were doing. I had something that was a lot of very menial, detailed. I had like 400 pages of scanned faxes. And I wanted somebody to go through each page and manually type in these addresses that were on these scanned pages. And I found a guy for like 30 cents an hour that did it for me and got it done in a couple days. Now, I don't know. I could have hired somebody in the U.S. at $10 an hour to do that, and it would have taken them 3 times as long. So take that for what it's worth. I still hire local assistants. I know that some of you may be concerned with hiring, outsourcing, that kind of stuff. But there's some things that you're not going to find anybody in America who wants to do that stuff. And there's guys that are hungry in Pakistan that will do that in a heartbeat for you. So, I that's a great resource to find VAs. Yes.
Your average is $2 or $3 an hour?
Yep.
Okay,
Now I've had local VAs $7 an hour.
right.
I have a good friend who, in fact, my co-host on the podcast that I do, he pays his VA $7 an hour from the Philippines. That's huge.
Yeah.
But he's got great English, and he works 50 hours a week. He works a lot, and all this guy does is my co-host Alex. He spends $3,000-$5,000 a month on postcards. All of the calls go directly to voicemail. This VA will the same day call them all back, and we'll get some more information about the property. And he's got this VA trained to actually make an initial offer to the seller to weed out the unmotivated ones.
Yeah.
So he'll ask them, what do you want for the house? And the sellers will say, well, I don't know, make an offer. So the VA, what he does is he goes and he looks at what the tax assessed value is or what the Zillow value is, knocks off 30%, subtracts $30,000 for repairs, and makes an offer.
Bang.
It says, you know what, we could maybe offer something like $150. I don't know if that'll work for you. And if the seller says, no way, and gets all upset, then he just marks the lead as a dead lead. If the seller says, I might be open to that, maybe I just got to sell this thing. So then the VA flags that, Alex gets it and immediately calls that guy and schedules a time to go meet with him.
Local market or virtual market?
He's doing this virtually in 2 other markets.
Okay.
He's got this VA. So he's paying, and he's also paying his VA like a $200 bonus on every deal. So this guy is really good.
You're right.
So you can find VAs like that. And the sky's the limit. You could say to them, like I've done, listen, here's Joe's program. Go through it. I want you to call all of these sellers. I want you to cold call 50 sellers a day. Ask them these questions. And if they're interested, send them this email and follow up with them every 2 days until you get a contract back. So there's no reason why you couldn't do that. I would suggest first learn how to do it yourself.
Right.
Okay, and then so now if they have questions, you know how to answer those questions and help them. I've talked to people, and I've never done this personally, but we'll do traditional wholesaling, and we'll do 5, 10, 15 a month. Outsource 100% of it. They'll outsource all of the direct mail, making the offers. They'll do it all on the phone. They're not getting huge margins, but they're just getting $2,000-$3,000 on each pop. They're doing a ton of them. And they have local realtors on the ground doing the stuff. So that's another thing. This is virtual assistants that are doing mainly the marketing for sellers. You need somebody to do the marketing for the buyers for you, right? So that's when it comes to finding realtors. And I don't know if I talked about this here. Okay, I get a realtor. Well, here you go. I put an ad in Craigslist. This is my ad for finding realtors. I'm an investor looking for a realtor to help me lease my properties. Give me a call. That's it. So I let them know that I'm an investor and I'm leasing a bunch of properties. So I'm wanting a tenant placement realtor. And there's a lot of them out there. They're only getting $250, $500 per lease, but they're doing 10, 20 of them a month. They know how to turn and burn these things quickly. So I get these realtors to call me. A lot of them want 1 full month's rent. I just pass on those. But you're going to get a couple that call and say, I always ask them, how much do you want to get paid for this? I don't offer or advertise a price. And I'll find some realtors that they're not expecting anything more than $250, $300 to find a tenant for me. So then I'll tell them, well, look, I require a little more work than maybe an average landlord would, so I'll pay you $500. And they get all excited about that. And then I interview them, I give them my checklist, and it just says on there, it's my checklist of everything that needs to be done, and then here are my responsibilities. Owner, that's me, virtual assistant, realtor. And I just place check marks so the realtor sees right there what they're supposed to do. Take pictures, make sure you get videos. But also at the same time, I'm telling the agent, look, I have a seller who lives in these homes most of the time, or who they want to meet the tenant buyers. So many times my realtor will just coordinate a showing between the buyer and the seller, tenant buyer and the seller. So many times the seller shows the home and the seller will send me pictures. But I just want a realtor to coordinate all that. I want a realtor that will make sure the pictures are, if the seller doesn't send pictures, they'll go and take pictures themselves. Get some signs in the neighborhood, take all the calls. I want a realtor that will answer the phones. That's the most important thing probably. I want a realtor who will answer the phone and is okay with putting their cell phone on my Craigslist ads. That's really important. So the realtors, they take calls, they advertise on Post-its, V-Flyer, and Craigslist, and they coordinate showings. But a lot of times it's just communicating between the seller. Okay? They're kind of like my middleman. But remember, the realtor is representing you, the investor. They're not representing the seller. They're not representing the tenant buyer. They're representing... Now, a realtor may say, okay, fine, I can do that, but I need you to sign this something. So that's fine. But I don't give them any kind of paperwork to sign. I just say, look, I'll pay you $500 per deal. And then if you want me to fill something out or sign it, then you give me some paperwork to sign. So I've paid realtors flat fees, percentages, hourly wage. Right now, my realtor just gets $600 for every deal that they do, that they find a tenant buyer for me. I'll gladly pay that in a heartbeat because they're literally doing all the work. I don't have to worry about anything. Yes.
Do they qualify your buyer financially?
Mm-hmm. They can go log into my system that I have and pull credit report and do a background check. They'll call and verify references.
Okay.
By the way, there's a company that will do this for you if you're interested. They're based out of St. Louis. It's LTS.US, I think. Just Google Landlord Tenant Services US. This is important. Let me find this. We're almost done. I see some of you nodding off. LTservices.us. So maybe their website's not up anymore. Landlord Tenant Services. LTservices.us. There we go.
You need a different server than www.
Yeah, okay. LTservices.us. And they do every state, and it's really cool. They will give you they'll give you a rental application, and on that rental application will have your special code. You give it to the tenants, and it tells them where to fax it to or send it, and they'll send it to this lady. She will do everything. She'll pull the credit. She'll call the previous employers. She'll verify their income. She'll call previous landlords. She'll call the references. She'll make sure she gets real paycheck stubs, bank statements if they don't have paycheck stubs, tax returns, and she'll also do a national criminal background check. It's great. She charges $50 though. Okay. So can you get away with charging $50 to your tenants on applications?
Wow.
Maybe. What I do is I charge $35 and I pay her an extra $15 to do this for me. But it's way worth it. She just literally takes... The only hiccup though is that it'll take you longer to get this back than it would be if you did it yourself. So right now, I have my realtor do what she does because I want a quicker answer. All right. But she's really good. I've used her for a long time. I just don't use her anymore, not because I don't like it, but I can do it faster if I do it by myself. My realtor does it. Okay, so how do I find a realtor? I put a Craigslist ad. I'm an investor looking for a realtor to help me lease all my properties. The realtors represent me. All right, now, one more slide and this is it. When it comes to technology, I use a lot of cool things because basically what I'm teaching you today is how to flip lease options virtually from anywhere in the world. You can take everything I've taught you today and start flipping lease options from Cancun, Mexico if you wanted. Okay? Get a VA to do the marketing for you. Get a realtor to do the buyer marketing for you. Get some of these tools. DocuSign. Skype is a tool I use for phone calls. For $3 a month, you can get your VA a local 719 area code phone number, and your VA can start making calls through Skype from the Philippines or from Mexico or wherever you find your VA, and start making calls for you, and the buyers, the sellers will see the local area code. They'd have no idea that it's coming from another country. I use Google Voice for my text messages. I use Vumber. I've showed you Vumber to get the virtual phone numbers if I need multiple numbers. Sometimes if I'm sending multiple campaigns, postcards, yellow letters, text messages, I want a different phone number to track where the leads are coming from. And I can point it in Vumber to all forward to my cell phone if I wanted to. So it's all coming to me, but I can then log into Vumber to track the marketing. You want to track your numbers. Vonage is really good. If you're going to be overseas doing these deals, you've got to get a Vonage account, and it just turns your modem into like a real telephone. So you have a real telephone you can pick up. And for some reason, the quality is better on a Vonage call than a Skype. I just said local cell phone. If you're going to be doing deals from another country, it's a good idea to buy like one of those prepaid phones from those markets. Another tool I like to use a lot is called iJot. E-Y-E Jot, J-O-T.com, iJot.com. And by the way, also on Skype, you can do video conference calls, right? I don't do this, but I know guys that do. They will try to get sellers on Skype so they can talk face-to-face, okay? And some sellers will do it. But there's something that happens when you're face-to-face, you know, that builds some rapport, builds some trust, and you'll actually close more deals. So if you can, even if it's local, try to get the seller on Skype. Just ask them, hey, do you have Skype? Do you have a way that we can chat online, you know? And you'll find that you can build really good rapport with them. If you can't do that, another great tool is iJot, where iJot allows you to send videos to people in an email. So you go to iJot, it's free. You create a short little 30-second video. This is what I used to do all the time. I should do it more. Hey, I go in and I record myself with my webcam, real quick video. It says, hey, John, it was great talking to you about your house on 123 Main Street. I just wanted to say hi, introduce myself. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I just sent you an email that has all this information. Check it out. Call me if you have any questions. Okay? And I'll send this iJot. They get it in an email. They'll see my mugshot there, and they'll click it, and it plays this little video. I get incredible feedback from that when I send it. Oh, that was great. You know, it really adds a personal touch. Okay? And I've never had my VAs do that. But what you could do is you could pre-record a generic video. I don't know if that would work or not, but you could pre-record a generic video. Hey, it was great talking to you earlier about your house, and I just wanted to explain real quick how our lease purchase program works and explain it. You know, you could do that. That might be better than nothing. But iJot works great, and when I've done it and I've talked to the seller later on, I've always gotten compliments about that.
Do you get that objection in other markets where people are like, well, you know, I live in Texas, you're trying to do this from St. Louis, I don't trust you, type thing?
That's, yeah, I wanted to bring that up because that's important. I tell them, look, I do deals all over the country. And I'll say something like, you know, the valid, good point. There's probably then, this may not be a good program for you. If you're uncomfortable with that, that's fine. It's probably not a good fit for you. But let me ask you, why is that a problem? Whether I live here, if I live there, I can start marketing your home tonight. And usually, if it's a market that I've been doing a lot of business in, I'll tell them I have buyers right now looking for homes in that neighborhood. I try not to lie about that. But I got buyers looking for homes in that area right now. What does it matter whether I'm here or if I'm in Hawaii on vacation? I can start marketing your home. I got realtors there on the ground that are doing this for me. A lot of times they'll ask you about your experience. Well, tell me about, you know, can you give me some references or referrals? I never do that. I'll tell them, look, you can go to my website. I've got testimonials on there, but I just don't do that anymore. I don't want to infringe on the privacy of my previous clients and customers. So if the testimonials on my website aren't good for you, aren't good enough for you, then it's probably just best that we just not do business. So it's amazing when they start bringing up objections, and I kind of play hardball like that. It actually makes them want to do business with me more, because they realize I'm not a sucker. I'm not going to bend over and make them and bow to their every wish. You know, I'm a serious investor. I'm a businessman. You either want to do business with me or not. That's fine. It's okay to say no. So when they ask me about experience, I say, look, I've been doing this for a long time. I've said this to sellers before. Look, I got a bunch of buyers. What does it matter how long I've been doing this? I got buyers that want your house right now. Would you like them or not? So maybe that's not the nicest way to do it. But you could say things like, well, I've been doing this a long time. Or you could say, well, look, I'm new at this in this market right now, but my business partner has been doing tons of these deals all over the country. And so if there's something that I can't help you with, or if there's a question I can't answer, I can get my business partner on the phone and we can talk about it. Okay? And that doesn't have to be me. It could be Michael Jake. You could just say, hey, I want to partner with you on this deal. Here, I already got the seller to fill out this property information worksheet. Would you be willing to partner with me on it? Maybe not Michael. But there's maybe some other people here that you can partner with on this deal. And again, you can partner with me if you've bought my course. You can partner with me on these deals. You need to get the seller to fill out the property information worksheet first. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, and I think having that realtor local probably helps solve some of
That's
that.
Yeah.
my point.
Good point.
Meet somebody face to face.
But even if you don't have a realtor there, I tell the seller, look, this is how my program works. And if this isn't for you, that's fine. It's all about confidence, portraying that confidence, not being intimidated by
I
them.
think saying having a program. that means-
Yeah, here's how my program works. I can start marketing your house tonight on the internet. I got a bunch of websites I advertise these properties on. When I find a good quality tenant buyer, I'm going to call you up. You're going to get to meet them. You can show them the house. If they're good, if you like them, let me know. I'll pull their credit. I'll do a background check. And I'll email you the paperwork, or I'll email the tenant buyer the paperwork. And I have an attorney, a title company that closes all my deals, and we'll send it all to them. And that's how my program works. If it's not for you, that's fine. I just got one more minute before the videotape ends. But I'll still answer questions. We just won't record anymore.
Your real estate and your title and attorney fees, the $500 each, where does that come out of?
The $500 that I pay the escrow company to handle the closing,
Yeah.
the closing, the lease option stuff, I pay $500, and that just comes when the tenant buyer, remember, makes the check out to the escrow company. So then the escrow company prepares a disbursement agreement, and they'll spell out on there, we get $500, the seller gets this, the investor gets this, and
But you're paying it.
I'm paying it, out of my profit.
Do you add that to the cost of the house too, or do you pull it out of your profit, or how when you're figuring that out? How do you?
It's just the cost of doing business. They could do it, or I could do it.
It's
I'd
out of
rather
the
pay
option
them to do
fee.
it.
the option fee.
It's coming out of the option fee.
Okay.
So if there's $5,000 option fee, I'm only going to get $4,500 of that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Have you ever used Elance?
I've used Elance before. Elance is good for maybe more highly skilled work. Okay.
Yeah.
I've done some more of writing projects and transcription services and things that I want really high quality. I'll use Elance for that typically. Yes.
Yeah, did Alex find his VA on Odesk?
Did Alex find his VA on Odesk? I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I found great
He's got
VAs.
lucky.
This is what I do. If you want to find a VA has great English, let me just
Yeah.
tell you how to do this. Post a job on Craigslist. I'm wanting a telemarketer to return phone calls for me, and apply if you're interested. Okay. And when they reply, I get 500 of them, and I can sort them and rank them by previous Odesk experience and reviews they've had from previous employers. I take the best ones, the best 20 or 50 or whatever, and I'll say, I'll copy and paste something. I'll just email each one of them. I'll copy and paste something. I have my VA do this actually. So I'll copy and paste a paragraph. Call this phone number and use this number to identify yourself. Read this paragraph. So call this number, leave a message. say, hey, I'm Joan, my number is 525, and then read the paragraph. And I give them that email. And usually you'll get 5 or so out of 20 that are really good. They immediately call. They immediately leave a message. They follow your instructions exactly. And you know those are great candidates. And so then I interview them and then I hire them.
You said you placed an ad on Craigslist. Did you
I'm
mean
in
Odesk?
Odesk.
Okay.
I pasted the ad in Odesk.
Okay. All right.
By the way, I know a friend of mine has found tons of great local assistants on Craigslist.